The markets are on an upswing today, reacting to news of a better than expected jobs report and signals from Beijing that China might be open to one day maybe engaging in trade talks with the United States. Joining us now, NBC News senior business correspondent Christine Romans and national affairs correspondent for The Nation, John Nichols. All right, jobs numbers, explain them to me, please.
Yeah, they were resilient. They were decent. I mean, I'm telling you, we've been so worried about this economy showing signs of cracks. The labor market has been this steady, consistent performer for the past few years. Now, these aren't the gangbusters job numbers that we saw maybe a year or two ago, but they're still good. 100, that's enough jobs created to keep the unemployment rate right there at a historically low 4.2%. I did see some federal job layoffs in here. We'll see more of those in the months ahead.
And this is not like a summer jump for summer jobs and summer retail or summer whatever.
Not yet. And we are just on the cusp of whatever. So this jobs report, like survey period, was the week after so-called Liberation Day. So, you know, I don't think there was a bunch of firing because of worries about layoffs or about tariffs that were in this number. That would happen later in the summer.
All right, let me talk about China. And John, I'll throw this to you.
Sure.
I was watching a few stories today on the a big product fair in China and how it's less busy than usual. This is where a lot of American businesses or retailers would go to pick out their products that they'd sell to the American consumer over the year. And it's not as busy as it normally is because America was a giant customer for China and Chinese goods. Does that mean that we are maybe in a decent negotiating position with China?
Sure, we're always in a negotiating position. The question of whether it's decent or indecent is sort of in the eye of the beholder. One thing to understand, the United States and China have been negotiating on trade for 50 years or more. And it's often been very intensive. Even now, there are people who communicate with each other every day. And so when you look at a trade fair or something like that, you are seeing anticipation of the future. The anticipation of the future at this point is a little bit shaky because, people are scared. They're uncertain, and uncertainty, affects all of this. But at the end of the day, that's also something that brings people into the negotiating table. And my sense is that, if you understand that the frameworks are already there, it's not just China, it's countries around the world that have trade relationships with the United States. And many of those countries, I've talked to people around the world, I was just in Europe, people are saying, look, we're ready to walk up to that table and say, here's what we've got right now. We'd like to continue it. Do you want to alter it some? How would we do that, et cetera? It's the same with the Chinese. So I'm always a little skeptical when they say, oh, China has indicated that they're willing to negotiate. China's always willing to negotiate. It's just a question of what you get in that negotiation. Right now, because of the tension, I think there's a lot of desire, certainly on the side of the Chinese, maybe also on the side of the United States, to get something that calms it down and gets those trade fairs much busier.
That's the more immediate concern, or maybe the more immediate goal. What about the long-term goal? Project this out. We just had a president come in, and he's levying, tariffs that aren't just 10% across the board, using some wild equation to decide, 145% on China, but, 60% tariffs on other places. I'm going to get the numbers all wrong, but just these all over the map places, even places that don't have people, just penguins. It doesn't do anything to long-term trust. And is that what's at risk here? Not just what might happen in the stock market today or tomorrow or the next year, but what might happen to the United States and the dollar in the next 10 years?
Absolutely. 100%. I mean, that's what's at stake. And remember, we've talked about this before. Tariffs can be good. There are many circumstances where a well-negotiated tariff can help a particular U.S. industry or a sector of an industry. And that's been true for a very long time. So the fact that Donald Trump has brought up the concept of tariffs, that's not radical. That's not something new. But the fact that he's done it in an across-the-board kind of wild way that seems to be related not just to economics, but also to policy goals and kind of liking one country, disliking another, liking one leader, disliking another, that's where it gets problematic. And one of the things that I'm tracking a lot is leaders around the world, people like the new Prime Minister of Canada, Mark Carney, who is literally saying, look, we're ready. if the United States can't get its act together, if it's all over the board, we're ready to step in and do, kind of step to a more prominent position. Obviously, Canada can't push America aside, but we're really ready to be on that international stage. Other countries are saying that. And so the problem for the United States right now is the United States does not look stable enough. It doesn't look like it's perhaps a good long-term partner. And so the danger for the United States, and particularly for American workers, is this prospect that the sort of order of trade gets rearranged, not immediately, but over the next few years. And the United States is just not in the traditional dominant position it's been in.
Have you had any conversations with folks in the White House who are concerned about long-term stability, maybe damaging that?
They're all talking about the patience, the staying the course, the stay calm, that the Trump has some kind of vision beyond this moment and that we're all being too short term and looking at the stock market or the bond market or the dollar right now, although there was plenty of concern about 2 weeks ago about the bond market and the dollar. But they are really trying to kind of sing on the same sing on the same songbook that Trump knows better than we do, and that he has got a vision, and America is going to be better off for it. He's going to change kind of the consumer relationship with the world and change the trade.
He's got a plan. Trust us.
He's got a plan, and we are too small-minded to understand it.
All right, Christine Romans, John Nichols. Thank you, guys.